Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Large Las Vegas. My name's Kobe Sherlock, and today, back in the lab, Mr. Derek Parent. Derek, say hello to everybody.
Hello, hello.
Man, it is good to be back in here, and today we're bringing somebody super special to you guys, someone who is a neighbor of ours here in our office building, but an absolute impact to our community with the work they do. I want to introduce, without further ado, Mr. Perry Ursem. Perry is one of the vice presidents of business retention for LVGEA, and I'm going to let him dive in a little bit. But Perry, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody out there. Good morning or good afternoon or whatever time it is.
Yeah, you know, it just kind of blends away in here sometimes. But for us, Perry, before we get to all the incredible things you guys do, because obviously for Derek and I, we get to participate and really being on the loop, and having you as neighbors is great as well.
Thank you.
Can you tell the fans here and listeners in a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. So been with the organization now. This is actually year number 10, second time around. Came into the organization in this former iteration of the Nevada Development Authority. Again, in the similar fashion, Regional Development Authority, which I'll talk a little bit about, came on in 2003, moved to Vegas in 1996, came from Southern California, as I tell people, kind of kicking and screaming, did not want to move to Vegas. I thought, oh, geez, coming from Southern California, a beautiful utopia, or at least what I thought, but moved here, got involved into a business, was a business owner with my dad. Did that for several years, got into economic development in 2003, was a recruiter working with businesses from all over the world, left, recruited back in the private sector, then came back in 2012, worked for former Governor Sandoval, worked a couple of years there, and then developed the program that I'll talk about today, which is business retention and expansion for the new organization known as the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance.
And I'm glad you shared about what LVGEA stands for, because, you know, for those that don't know, I mean, what an incredible impact and just everything that you guys do to support our city. From us, I'll just say on the front end, thanks. Thank you so much. It helps us as business leaders, but ultimately as folks that live in Las Vegas, it only absolutely provides a greater space for other people to consider that are coming here. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So, first of all, real quick, you said business. What were you doing with Dad on the small business?
So crazy. I'll tell you, we owned a street cleaning company. Okay, so back in the 90s, we used to literally wash streets in Las Vegas, and it was hilarious because we were doing this for home developers, commercial developers, and when I would go back and see family and friends in California, they would ask me, what do you do in the desert? You're washing streets in the middle of the... What? So it was kind of a hard thing to fathom, but I mean, business was good because in the 90s, I mean, residential development was going crazy. A lot of the mega resorts were being built. We started working for some of the builders when they were building some of the casinos, like the Bellagio, the Rio, the Paris, and it was just a surreal time. And when I transitioned out of it to get into economic development, it was it's kind of that next phase for me, going, okay, saw that side of Vegas, which was unique in the fact that in the 90s you could pretty much hang a shingle of any kind of business, and for the most part you could do just about anything. And then 2000s come along, there started to be some change. We had the recession. But then, really kind of digging into the types of businesses that call Southern Nevada home, and that's what I'll talk about today. Vegas is known for the hospitality sector, the Strip, the convention space. I have a unique job where I get to go out and meet the other kind of businesses that are here, and the reality is there's so many different kinds of companies that call Vegas home. So it's a pretty special place to live.
Well, you guys just brought on some big stuff, not only for Las Vegas, but you guys you're working on Haas Automation. You guys are working with those guys. They're bringing a couple thousand jobs, correct?
Couple thousand jobs, and then the indirect effect. You've got other businesses that are going to be suppliers and vendors to Haas. So they're actually, when they're going to build out their facility in Henderson, they're actually going to have enough space to allow other businesses to be there to support what it is that they do. So I personally didn't get to work on that. A colleague of mine, Michael Walsh, he had the opportunity of working with Haas through their. They received some tax incentives from the state, and then they're working intimately with the city right now as they get things going. But that's going to be a huge win, and just a huge job creator for our community over the next few years.
Perry, kind of under the umbrella, what is LVGEA as a whole? And really, I mean, because you asked me, and I feel like I can tell 1,000 different stories of what my perception is, but what is LVGEA and what services and support do you guys offer?
Great question. Great question. So Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, we are one of 6 regional development authorities. So what does that mean? So thanks to the governor and the state and the governor's Office of Economic Development, they actually provide opportunities. So we receive a grant from the state that allows us to do what they call economic development. So again, one of 6, so 6 major regions that make up the area of Nevada. We represent the largest region from a population standpoint as well as a GDP standpoint. So as far as activity, gross domestic product, I think that's going to be changing. And obviously in Northern Nevada that you've got Tesla up there, I think that their GDP is obviously going to be increasing substantially. But yeah, so as the Regional Development Authority, I'll say about 75% of our energy is focused on marketing and attracting businesses from outside Southern Nevada to this market. So that's about 3/4 of our energy. The other quarter of our energy, which is me and our team, essentially working with existing businesses. So again, my crazy title, Business Retention and Expansion. What that means is I go out, I visit about 150 businesses annually, and it's getting to know the businesses. What are they doing? What's on the horizon from a growth perspective? And then within our unique toolbox of resources, what kinds of things can we bring to the table that can help them grow and catalyze that opportunity? Because our ulterior motive with that is job creation, it's investment, it's tax revenues. So it's all good things that help our community put people to work and just help diversify the economy.
Well, so when you talk about, so now that all the business development stuff that we're bringing in, how is COVID, affected?
Great.
I mean, you have to ask it because we were booming, and then March hit us, right? Yep. And then record, high unemployment. Casinos are shutting down, first time ever, right? Yeah. So, how has it negatively affected what you do?
It's been huge. It's well, there's been an impact, there's been an opportunity, yeah. And what I mean by that is when it hit. In fact, it was funny because I actually went to San Diego to visit some friends because I knew this thing was coming down. And I was like, okay, last chance to get out, and have a little bit of fun. And then when we came back, it was like, shutting the office down. The governor's making the announcement, hey, businesses need to shut down. What does that mean? So we then kind of went into this emergency mode because businesses and then even our partners were contacting us going, what do we do? Who's essential versus non-essential? And what are the things that we can and can't do? And how does this work? And so we started looking at the different things that we were receiving from the state and then, conveying that information out to the business community. Also from this opportunity, and I'll say that on the innovative side of things, there were businesses that were getting creative with creating personal protective gowns or PPG. PPE is the fancy things that we're hearing. Companies that were creating masks, creating sanitizer. So the governor's office then put together a questionnaire to identify what businesses in the state were producing or distributing those kinds of products to give that to the COVID task force, which was another entity that was created by business leaders that were volunteers. Jim Murin, former MGM CEO, led that task force, leads it today. But essentially, we then were populating a list of businesses throughout the state that were producing and distributing these needs and allowing healthcare, first responders, and the like that had the need to be able to contact those businesses. So, for those businesses that pivoted, it definitely helped because a lot of these businesses changed permanently. And I think we're going to see some of those companies continue to produce those products even when we get through this.
And we saw, we covered a story of a business that did it. It was Polar Shades who stepped up and did a great job of recovering and pivoting. I love, you nailed it with 2 things right off the bat. You said opportunity, and we talk about opportunities all the time coming out of this. We had an incredible person, Christy Staub, talking about opportunities coming out of the pandemic and how we respond and how we pivot. Yeah. And for businesses, I mean, you've gotten to see the small business side and how great it's probably translated to your job now, I imagine. Yeah. What advice would you give to businesses right now that are considering, pivoting and creating new attack plans coming out of this?
Well, it's like, okay, what do you do? What can you pivot into that is something that is, say, a byproduct or something that you can shift into that is something that you're already currently doing? So again, we had a soap manufacturer, we had a distiller that got into sanitizer. Why? Well, alcohol is a major component in sanitizer. We had, again, Polar Shades, another company here in town called Thompson Tees. They make undergarments for men and women, and they started making face masks using their, using their material. So that I mean, I think, again, look at what you're doing, and if you can see a slight shift to get into what the needs are. But then also, too, the businesses that we talk to, if you have a business that's locally focused and is dependent on the local economy, you want to get outside of your comfort zone. You want to start thinking regionally. You want to start thinking nationally. And if you can even do it, you might even want to think about, how can you take your business and go globally so that all your eggs aren't in one basket. You can diversify and, you can get through this, because there is no timeline with what we're experiencing right now.
A lot of the businesses, the casino, I think, generates maybe like 30% of the state revenue now, but they bring in tourism that, everything else is what we use, like the helicopters that go toward the Grand Canyon.
Yes.
Everything is kind of affected, but being in business development, just seeing where the state is now, as far as schools are being underfunded, a lot of stuff it happened dramatically to the state. Where do you see us in the next, 3 years? I mean, I don't necessarily, when I say that, we don't necessarily see like a real estate crash, because real estate didn't go down.
Yeah.
So it's a medical crash, but my thoughts are we're going to end up seeing something financial actually collapse here.
I think what we're experiencing right now is businesses are in survival mode. And I think businesses that have equity, that have revenue streams, as far as, solid revenue streams from a market standpoint, they're going to be able to get through things. Those that have been impacted, those that may be heavily leveraged, and again, you guys know this business than I, but those that have a lot of liability, it's going to be tough, because I'm figuring, okay, if we're looking at 6 to 12 months from a vaccine, and then another at least 6 to 12 months of getting that out to the masses, when do we get to a point to where we start seeing tourism? Speaking for our area, when do we start to see that uptick? I mean, international travel, that's going to be gone for a while. I'm going to say even domestic for that matter. So, we're going to be seeing more of the collateral damage over time. And I hate to say this because of what this is. This is going to be a longer, unlike anything we saw in the recession, unlike anything we saw at 9/11, even the .com, if you remember, that experience, 20 years ago, this is going to be a longer process, and I think a longer period of collateral.
For the businesses, from the business standpoint, and you're exactly right. We're seeing people that are really looking longer term on how they're preparing to respond. And obviously for us with tourism, I was telling Dee, we're sitting here 6 months ago we were at the Wynn for preview,
right,
and we're looking at all the incredible things coming down the pipeline for Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And it's almost like somebody clicked the switch.
Yeah.
And here we are as business leaders, because we've had phenomenal leaders sitting in the chair you're in. And here we are hearing the same message from everybody. And that's, we're focused on getting everyone recovered. We're focused on everyone pivoting. And we're focused on bringing opportunity back for people visiting Vegas and for those living in Vegas. So for you guys with LVGEA, how has it shifted for you in what you do every day? And really, what do you see in the near future for you guys?
So a lot of the business that we concentrate our energies on, and let me nerd out here for a brief minute.
Go for it.
As far as the types of businesses that we concentrate on, so a business that we as a regional development authority really focus on are what they call a primary business. And a primary business is a business where more than half of the revenues that company generates is actually outside Nevada. So again, as I mentioned earlier, businesses that have a regional, national, or global marketplace, those are the kinds of businesses that we focus on, primarily because from an attraction standpoint, they don't necessarily have to be in Vegas. They could be in Phoenix, they could be in Salt Lake, they could be in Austin, they could be anywhere for that matter. We're working hard to educate them and inform them on the opportunities that are here so that they place their business here, because that business in turn generates revenues that comes in, and it trickles in the form of payroll. It trickles in the form of expenses and investments and taxes, those sorts of things. So that was always the primary concentration. Well, when the pandemic hit, now all of a sudden, and I'll say this also too, with new leadership that we have in Carson City, there's a much bigger focus on small business. Well, small businesses tend to be more locally based, where it's, wholly concentrated on the local economy. And that's been a shift for us. In fact, we're going to be working here in partnership with the county to talk to approximately 3,000 businesses in Southern Nevada to see how they're doing over the course of the next 6 months. And it's just to get a temperature, gauge, like, how's business, where are you going? And, and then from the resources that we have, what can we provide that can help them stay afloat?
Yeah, it's again, with a lot of the essential business and non-essential, right? How can you, that was a problem that I saw early on, some businesses getting shut down because they were considered non-essential, right? But there's a lot of businesses that I don't know, personally, like, I think every business is an essential business in some way, right?
Yes.
You can have half capacity, but from health club to mental fitness or staying inside the house, or like some of the procedures that they just were not doing. They stopped all procedures. It was everything came to a stop, and I've been through crashes and so forth, but I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
So talking to 3,000 businesses, what's the message? What would the message be to people that don't know if they're essential, non-essential? Like, all right, all right, people got PPE, the money, the payroll protection money, or they got some money. They took that 30-year loan. For the business, they have to pay back. Yet they take the money and they still may have to close their business.
Yeah. No, this morning I was talking through technology. Now we're doing stuff via webinar, and I had a business retention meeting this morning with a company that provides behavioral health services. And they had some issues before this thing hit, and they were working through that. Well, they got back up and running in March 1st. Okay. So they'd been running for a couple of years, had the issue. March 1st, they got back up and running, going 2 weeks into it, and then boom, shut down. Well, they're now they're shut down for 2 weeks because they're like, are we essential? Are we non-essential? Because that was unclear at the time. They finally came to realize, okay, we're essential. So now they're trying to get back up and running, but they're devastated. And that I consider, again, that's an essential. I mean, mental health, and I could go off on this, but mental health, I think, is one of the biggest issues that we have in this country. And this is a company where it's like, oh my gosh, we need them and we need their services to help so many different people of all different types. So, it was a very informative meeting, but it was this, female owner and her son, and they moved here from California several years ago and get this thing going. And it's just, so I'm just looking at this going, okay, how can we, and again, it's not me, it's not us, but what can we do to connect the dots? Because, economic development in its most simplest terms, connecting the dots. So how can we provide opportunity or provide introductions so that it can get these companies to do what they do? And again, that ulterior motive is that success means people going back to work, and revenues of things that are going to help our community. So that's one, and there's a lot more to come, and it's going to be it's on a case by case. It's going to be really interesting to see what we can do and how we can provide value.
Anything about this town is resilient. This is the most resilient town I've ever been a part of. You're just from the crash to October 1st. Unfortunately, we had the tragedy. To the COVID, the pandemic, seeing people rise up and help, and we've had some great, leaders, like Kobe was saying in that chair, like essential. When I talk about that, when you talk about mental health, which is probably one of the most important things, but also substance abuse.
Yes.
People that were in AA, NA, like we had Vance Johnson on here who has the Recovery Center.
Incredible.
Locally, he was on our magazine cover with Judge from Central Church.
Wow! And
just to hear about the addiction, like for people that are going through the real. I mean, being in the house for 6 to 8 weeks and not be able to do anything, right? Yeah. So even meetings, I saw like AA meetings were going on Zoom. So I mean, that's why it's very difficult to say what's an essential, what was non-essential business, and coming out of this. Hopefully the governor doesn't change anything. We stay in phase 2 with just masks, and we don't have to go down to a hard shutdown like some other states are going back into. Have you heard anything as far as from the governor's office on what could possibly happen?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're watching
Not
things.
to put you on the spot.
No, it's okay. Well, and just, we're watching as an office. It's like, okay, we're seeing an uptick in positive cases in our neighboring states. And those states are taking, pretty substantial measures. I mean, Arizona, they're locking down. California is looking at how to lock down. Our governor, I'll just say it. At first, I was a little like, oh, this guy's being pretty strict on things. And now that we've gotten into it, I have to tip my hat to the governor. I think that he's done a pretty fair job. And as far as, being mindful of not only business, but the people, and just figuring out how do we do this in such a way where we keep people safe, We keep people from getting sick. I mean, heaven forbid people pass from this horrible thing. But, you know, I mean, a lot's on his shoulders right now. And I would imagine right now, you know, he's looking at this going, you know, I don't want to shut business down again because that's going to be just so detrimental for our economy. But at the end of the day, he's looking out for the people. And, you know, if anyone has one of the toughest jobs in this state right now, it's the governor.
Well, I could tell you one thing about Sisolak. You know, personally, during 1 October, he was out there every single day, you know, helping out. He raised a bunch of money for the victims of 1 October. I mean, awesome. Sisolak stood out in there, and he became our governor. And I can imagine, you know, we're all Monday morning quarterbacks when it comes to like what government should and shouldn't be doing. So, you know, the guy has a tough job, and you have to respect the leader of our state and the decisions that he's making, because obviously he's not making it just for himself, but he's making it for all of us. And we live here, so we need to, you know, respect the law and do what's right by our neighbor. You know, wear your mask and wash your hands and practice social distancing, you know, and hopefully, you know, this horrible, you know, virus, you know, dwindles away and we end up having a vaccine for it sooner than later. But you know, this thing just happened like 6 months ago, and clinical trials run 18 months. So, you know, this could be the new normal for a while.
For a while. Yeah. And I mean, and I think also, too, this period where we've seen this uptick, people were frustrated. You know, they were locked down for almost 3 months, and they're like, I got to get out. And, you know, you've got these politicians going, hey, whoa. And now all of a sudden we're seeing it. And I hope people realize it's like, yeah, we've got to be mindful of this. And I mean, again, I would not want to be in Sisolak's shoes right now. For what he's having to do, the tough decisions he's having to make, and the flack that he's getting. I mean, there's quite a bit of trolls out there.
I imagine, man. I've been seeing some heavy weight on the social medias and such. You nailed it, though, with the resiliency of this town. You know, I've lived in, you know, 2 other major cities growing up. I've been through a couple of things that were pretty significant, from Katrina to the floods in Nashville in 2010. Wow. What I've seen in Vegas, what I appreciate greatly is, you know, there are times in which, you know, government leads campaigns to lead people to positive, you know, reactions. And in Vegas, my experience has been the people are really leading the charge to support each other. Yeah. You know, and so on that front, it makes it super, you know, empowering for our citizens and our neighbors to know that we have each other's backs here. And unlike any other place, where Vegas is really a much more small town feel than most people perceive. Again, we joke about it, right? The whole Strip thing. Oh, you must live on the Strip. No, you know, what this town is able to create, from Henderson to North Vegas, you know, all the way even down to downtown. The neighbors do such a great job of supporting each other and leading the campaign in the right direction of coming out of this thing. You know, at least that's been my experience. How's it been on the business front?
Yeah, I think businesses are looking like, hey, how do I stay afloat? How do I take care of my people? You know, there's a lot of compassionate business owners in this town, and all different walks. I mean, you've got big business, you've got small business. You know, I want to, you know, comment on what you said about 1 October, but you know, we really saw the community come out unlike anything I think we've ever experienced here in Southern Nevada. And you know, and I want to say that not only with the people, but that's also with our business leadership community, is that they're looking at this going, you know, how do I, you know, obviously, how do I stay open? How do I remain as a profitable business? But a lot of them are even saying, I'm not even concerned about profit right now. All I'm concerned about is, how do I make sure that I can keep paying my people and keep doing what's necessary so that these families, because they feel this sense of responsibility, not just for their employees, but those families. How do I keep this going so that, you know, these families can get through this? So it's a team effort, and you know, I applaud every business that's doing what they're doing. Now, you know, we've heard some pretty devastating things with some companies that have had to, you know, close their doors and that, but you know that when they made those decisions, those weren't easy decisions.
Well, and chances are they'll probably come back pretty strong in some cases. Yeah. You know, my experience of business leaders that have been leaders for a long time is they know what it takes to get back on the horse. And of course, we have so many options for support for those owners in this town to get back on the horse. Yeah. And so, you know, obviously anybody listening, if you know business owners in that case, have them reach out to us. We can connect and get them in the right space so that they can begin to move forward in the right direction as we come through this.
Well, it's two front, you know, so you when you said something earlier, you know, businesses, you know, that have, you know, a ton of debt, they're not going to survive. It's just, if they're not, you know, if a lot of people, they take on debt because they have a clientele base that they service and they knock down the debt. But when you have no clientele base coming in and you still have the debt doesn't go away. You have to convert it So there's lots of, business people out there that are shifting. Like you said, they're doing different things, for their business. But, being a part of, LVGEA, I think I've been at almost every event that you guys have for the last 3-4 years, about 3 years now. And there's always been something like, we got a ton of insight on this community, like perspective that you guys do, everything that you guys give back to the community, all the data, the analytics, just the platform that you guys do. So I know that you guys had one event that was supposed to happen already this year. We had to cancel. You guys have shifted to doing, and I believe that this event coming up, correct me if I'm wrong, you have more people signed up for this event than you did last year, and you guys are doing it over Zoom.
Zoom, yeah. We got over 2,000 people, which is huge. I think this event would typically draw 500 to 600 people. So we're almost 4 times that. And, and we're still a ways out. We're still about a month out from this thing. So I'm excited to see what this turns. But yeah, we're, technology, how is that going to impact us as an organization? And how does that change how we get the word out and get that information out to our, to business leaders like you, Derek?
Are you guys nervous about Zoom? Like, no, it's big, but if you have 2,000-3,000 people log into it, it could, who knows, we had a big internet problem going on with COVID going on in most neighborhoods because everyone was using all the bandwidth.
Yeah. So when the pandemic broke out, our team, so Jonas Peterson, our CEO, Jared Smith, our Chief Operating Officer, and then our team really started to focus in on, again, pivoting and what can we do that's innovative and creative. We formed a partnership with the Small Business Administration. So the district director here, we were having weekly webinars or weekly Zoom calls to just keep people up to date on, hey, what's going on with PPP? When is it going to launch? What's happening, IDLE, and all these different programs. And I know that when we first started that, one of the first webinars that we had in excess of, I think it was close to 7,000 people on this call. It was huge. So, so we've kind of been through that, and we've kind of, I think, learned from that experience. So I hope, fingers, toes, and eyes crossed, that this event isn't too unique or different from what we've done. But I know that given what it is, because of the content and the information, is going to be a little more, we're going to have a little more production in the effort. So they're working on those details right now. That's way above my pay grade. So they're figuring all that stuff out right now.
We'll show up, though. They'll have it.
I laugh when you say 7,000 people, because I can only imagine someone, please mute your phone. Please mute your phone. Like, John, please. Like, I can only imagine that must be like the first time must have been the most chaotic time.
Well, thank goodness you've got that all mute button. So it's like, all right,
control there.
Keeps it in control.
Well, there was some funny stuff going around where people were actually like thought they put their video off, and they're like, doing stuff in front of the camera.
Oh man, the videos coming out on social media from the Zoom experiences were priceless.
A lot of funny stuff. The pandemic's never funny. Like nothing was going on funny at the hospitals. I know, like, they laid off a lot of nurses, and
how crazy is that?
Yeah, because it wasn't, COVID, so they laid off nurses, and there was, we're on the finance side. We're lenders. This is what we do. We lend. We do home loans. It's what we do, right? Yeah. So just to see, some of our clients that didn't have jobs, or people that do, who we had helped them, lower their interest rate. People are still buying homes. Yep. Yeah. But there's a lot of there's people, like, for instance, I'm gonna give you guys a perfect example. My barber, Jimmy the barber, he sends out the same message time when he goes out, but you have to wear a mask to go in, and it's everyone is doing their thing. That's why I would say, like, the resilient people, like a Jimmy the barber, or the manicurist, right? All those people, right? They're doing the right thing. They want to be back at work. They're not looking for free money, but they want to be back to work, and they're doing it safely. Yep. So hopefully, if people like Jimmy and everyone else out there who are doing the mask and social distancing, if everyone continues on doing that, I hope we shouldn't go into lockdown. But I gotta say, I went out to eat. I've only been out to eat 2 times since this pandemic, and both times, I'll be honest with you, there was no social distancing inside any of the restaurants, and every table was at capacity.
Wow.
But when you have a craving for Italian food, you tend to go and sit and eat it.
Don't drop the name of the restaurant, just in case.
It's in Summerlin.
I got it.
He says it's funny. I love it's Pete. It's not a big deal. It's open. Yeah. He's a great guy, but he thinks he has the best clams, and he doesn't. Just so you know.
But he does.
But he does
have
challenge. But he does have the best eggplant.
Oh,
man, we have a ton of amazing food in this town. I can't wait to get full range on getting back to the restaurants.
Yeah.
The COVID's been hard on us in that way too.
Takeout just isn't quite the same.
And I've been meaning to ask, and I think it's important because, from what I hear, and by the way, spectacular story. You have an incredible, walk in your work life, and that's amazing. And what you've been able to do, you probably talk to, you do speak to so many people within the year, so many people, incredible folks that you get to meet. Can you share with us some of the highlights, of your role, or even just your, job in general?
You hit a note there. Yeah. So let's talk about a story, and I shared a picture with you. And if the listeners get a chance to see this, so I want to highlight a couple of companies. So Geotab is a Canadian-based company. They provide GPS technology and services for large fleet organizations. So think UPS, think Pepsi. The companies that have large. In fact, I can talk about they received the contract for the GSA.
Oh,
so
awesome.
all of the federal vehicles that are out there, they provide GPS and technical services for the federal government. Well, as this thing was kind of kicking off, they contacted us and they're like, "Hey," and the relationship that we developed with them was through some incentives that they received when they took a large expansion last year. But they contacted us, I don't know, mid-March or so, and they said, "Hey, we want to do something for the community. What can we do?" So another company that we were working with, so a soap manufacturer that pivoted into sanitizer manufacturing. Just recently they had contacted us and they were selling sanitizer, but then all of a sudden they had a large quantity of this stuff that was in their warehouse, and they called, they said, "Hey, we got a bunch of sanitizer. Know anybody that needs any?" So when Geotab called, they said, "Hey, we're looking to do something for the community." And I thought, okay, this is a Hail Mary. I'm just going to throw it out there. And I thought, would you ever think buying a bunch of sanitizer and donating it to the healthcare community? And they were like, "Oh, that's a brilliant idea." And I'm like, well, okay. And I said, well, let me introduce you to this company, Nectar. And they made contact and they provided sanitizer to comprehensive cancer centers. Oh. And it was like, wow, and when we did a little thing, and all we did was we just connected the dots. That was our little bitty role. But how cool for a company like Geotab to do that for the community, for a healthcare provider like comprehensive cancer centers, and then to be able to source that locally from a company, again pivoting, Nectar, amazing company. So that's an example of just awesome stuff. I mean, there's others, but that's one. That's I think a cool example.
So that's amazing.
You're a connector, really.
Yeah.
You think like
the Connector's Way.
Yeah, it's a great book.
I love it.
But you say connect the dots, and that's exactly what LVGEA is. You guys connect businesses to work together to grow our city and grow our state. I mean, you guys have been amazing pillars in the in the community. And every time I go to one of the events, you always see the movers and shakers.
Yes.
Who's doing what Stephen Hill got
Steve Hill
2 years ago. He got Man of the Year and Businessman of the Year, and then what he's doing now. I follow him now because I got introduced to him by you guys, and just the amazing stuff that he's doing. So I mean, it's just the connections, just our friendship. I really appreciate because I get to see you guys. Funny stories. I go next door and I found where the snacks are. So
I wave at Chad every day. He's holding it down over there. I love Chad. I'll go by. What's up, buddy?
Here's the problem with this. Our snacks are getting healthier. It's like granola again.
Yeah, because because I ate all the Cheetos.
No, I gotta say we have. I mean, our team: Jonas, Jared, Brianna, Danielle, Jacob, Michael, Chris, Chad, Christine, Elena.
Love Elena.
Yeah, I mean, just an amazing group of. I mean, I work with an amazing team. I'm very humbled to work with these people. I mean, they're all rock stars in their respective areas, and it's a privilege. It's an absolute privilege.
I think even kids going to school for economics, this is a great place to start. I see a lot of. Like you had Alexa was the young lady who I met with you guys.
Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, intern.
Rock star.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Nevada State College grad. One of the best interns that I ever had the privilege of working with. Yeah. And now she had to leave us because she got a job. She was like, I got to gear up for this, and she got a job. And it was such a. But now we've got some cool interns. We've got some new interns that are in. They're doing great things. So the support that we're getting from that has been phenomenal.
It's that youth. It's that youth that comes in and changes everything, right? the new ideas, the fresh ideas. And I was really like, she was one of the people that we met at the event we did for.
That's what we were talking about right before we came in here for the schools. It was right before the pandemic
schools
dropped
and
on
hospitals.
us.
It was, well, actually,
Future Ready.
We started
Future
going.
Ready, yeah.
We started, you know, it kind of started hitting us then.
Yep.
Future Ready kind of started hitting us then. That was in March. We did that.
That's right.
Speaking of Barry, you know, kind of similar story. Yep. I don't know what it is about you connecting Canadians to, you know, Las Vegans to make an incredible impact, but he also connected us with Phil, and what a game changer Phil's been in support for us, and as a friend and a community giver. You know, during the last few months, when we were working with different organizations to really service the community and get out, I mean, Phil was trying to mobilize anybody and everybody to support, you know, literally anything that was given back to those in need. So shout out to him, and another great Canadian out there for us.
Yeah. No, and I got so a little quick story on Future Ready. So Future Ready was something that we developed in 2014, and originally it was with the Clark County School District to promote the Career Technical Academy and magnet school programs that made up the school district. Because perception versus reality. Perception, we have one of the worst school districts in the country. Reality is we have some of the best vocational schools in the country. These are nationally recognized and award-winning schools here in our backyard. So we're doing that, and we were doing it for a little while, and Phil came in, and Phil, we would go on these business retention visits together, and we're actually finishing one up. We're in a parking lot, and he's like, hey, I got this idea. And he says, we're going to get UNLV and Nevada State College and CSN, and we're going to get everybody. We're going to get the, you know, higher ed, we're going to get workforce development. And it was like, you know, kind of a light bulb went off, and we started to go in that direction of doing that. And that particular one, that was our third event where it was healthcare focused, and you guys were sponsors of it. Thank you very much. Provided a tasty breakfast for us that morning. But yeah, and it's just like, you know, how do we do this? I mean, Phil, I love Phil, and you know, his altruism, and you know what he does, not only as a community leader, but then also like with rugby, you know, on a global scale. I mean, he's a mover and a shaker.
That's it, man. He's a go-getter, and we're blessed to have him here in Vegas.
He's so big, people think he's coming in there to be a, you know, they're making him go.
Phil, you heard it from this guy. He's going to probably get you for that one, man.
You know, he's a big guy. He's a big, handsome guy. And he was on he blessed our cover last month.
Yeah,
June's edition with everything that he does. And, you know, he's a fun guy to have around the office. He jokes, and, you know, he's just I think this town's just a lot of real people, you know, everyone that we've had in that Perry, you know, thank you for coming in. You know, I think, you know, LVGEA, we've been neighbors for a long time, and, you know, you're just a great interview. You're a wealth of knowledge. And I think anyone that's doesn't know about LVGEA, you know, first they're in our building. So 6720 via Aussie Parkway on the 3rd floor off the elevator left. They got that suite 300?
330.
Suite 330 with 350. You know, anyone that is not a part of it, it's a great way to get a part. If you want data or information, you're growing, incentives, you know, anything about your industry, you know, this is where to go get it. I mean, this is where it's at. I mean, you can get data, but not what you guys put together. You know, you guys have great with, you know, Jeremy Aguero from Applied Analytics. You guys have a lot of, you guys connected a lot of dots, and you make those events always special. So I mean, anyone that's not a part of it, it's a
well. And if I may, just what we look for is, if you're a business owner, if you're part of a business, and we don't know who you are, you don't know who we are, come on out. I want to hear your story. You know, again, we talk about stories. You know, this old salesman thing. You know, facts tell, stories sell. And I want to hear the stories of our business community. And one, you know, we've got this huge metric that we're going to be working on over the next 6 months. But, you know, again, if you're in business, come and share with us. Tell us what you're doing, and allow us to listen to what it is that you're doing. And if there are resources that we can put on the table that can be of value to you, there's no cost. You know, again, thanks to organizations like yours, you know, the state that underwrite us as a nonprofit, it allows us to truly pay it forward and provide those things so that businesses can flourish locally. So yeah, if you're out there and you're doing business and you're not familiar, come check us out. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a cup of coffee, you know, a cup of water, and let's get to know you.
Perry, how can they reach you?
So they can reach us. So our main line, 702-791-0000. It's our main line. Our website, lvgea.org. We're also on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, so you can find us through those avenues. But yeah, give us a call. Check out our website. Love to sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, man, I can't thank you enough for coming out and doing what you do. I appreciate it. And listeners, take them up on it. Check out the LVGEA. check out Perspective coming down on a virtual pipeline.
Yeah. If you don't know, it's if you don't know and you want to know, that's the place you're going to get the information from.
That's it, guys. And we'll see you back here on Living Large Las Vegas. Definitely check us out. We got some good stuff coming your way. Mr. Perry Ursem, thanks again, brother. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Perry.
Thank you.